Shalom and welcome. This service is in English. If you speak English, write shalom in the comments and tell us where you are watching from. Baruch ata Elyon shenatata lanu chaim v'hirsheita lanu lehitkanes hayom la'avodotcha. Amen. Now let's go to the first psalm of this service, of this Midrash service, and it is going to be Psalm number 26.
Judge me, O Lord, for I have walked in my integrity. I have trusted in you. I shall not sin.
Search me and prove me. Try my reins and my heart. Your loving kindness is before my eyes. I have walked in your truth.
I do not sit with vain men. I will not dwell with the deceitful. I wash my hands in innocency and compass your altar. That I may publish with the voice of thanksgiving and tell of all your wondrous works. Lord, I have loved the habitation of your house, the place where your honored runs. Gather not my soul with the bloodthirsty, nor my life with the men of evil. But as for me, I will walk in my integrity. Redeem me, have mercy on me. My foot stands in an even place. In the congregations will I bless the Lord.
Okay, we have here some comments. Alicia Miranda dijo hola, hola, shalom. Bienvenida Alicia. Hoy el en vivo es en inglés. ¿Cómo se siente después de la fiesta de ayer de Pesaj? Muy bien, algo desvelado, pero muy bien. Estuvimos muy bien en la fiesta de Pesaj. Muchas gracias. Espero que todos ustedes también. Sandra Lorena Jan Antonio dice mi user es mamá Cora 77, no sé a qué te refieres. Avisai Sandy dice hola, hola, ¿me saludas? Claro que sí. Shalom, Avisai, bienvenido. Y acá tenemos WZ1, dice buen día, Boker Tov, bienvenidos todos. Hoy el en vivo es en inglés. Okay, now let's go to the Evianite Creed. Every Evianite should be aware of the following tenets of faith. Number one, worship is due to Elyon, the Most High God only. Number two, liberation from slavery in Egypt. Number three, the Shabbat and the festivals. Number four, the Ten Commandments given to the people at Sinai. Number five, the Bible, the Mikra, is holy. Number six, the El Elyon will punish and reward those who deserved it in the future. And finally, number seven, salvation will come when the time appointed by Elyon arrives. Now let's go to the first prayer of the service. It is a prayer of Ana Bekoach. We beseech you, Elyon, O God, by the might of your right hand, which is as great as your right hand, loose what is bound. Hear the supplication of your people, strengthen and purify us, O inspiring and merciful one, O mighty one. Protect us, the apple of your eye, to those who seek your unity. Bless and purify them, always grant them the mercy of your justice, holy and mighty one. Guide your fellowship with the fullness of your goodness. Unique and exalted one, turn to your people who remember your holiness. Hear our supplication and hear our plea, you who know the unseen. Blessed be you, your name and your glorious kingdom forever and ever. Amen. Okay, today is the Midrash service, and the first subject we are going to check today is Davar Mosar. This Davar Mosar is about soil types and their preparation. The Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man he had formed. Genesis 2:8. Cultivating the land is not just a job or a neutral technique, it is a spiritual commandment. The Torah teaches us that humanity's first occupation was that of gardener. Creation itself begins in a garden, not in a temple or a courtyard. Therefore, understanding the soil, the mother of all agriculture, is not trivial for the Evianite, who seeks to reconnect with the roots of divine will in daily life. What is soil and why is it so important? Soil is more than just dirt. It is a living ecosystem full of microorganisms, minerals, organic matter, and water, in constant interaction. The quality of our food, the health of our communities, and even the balance of the climate depend on the soil. Our people are like grass, and all their glory is like the flowers of the fields. The grass withers and the flowers fade, but the word of God endures forever, says Isaiah 40:6-8. This image reminds us of the fragility of plant life, which depends on soil quality. If the soil is pure, the harvest will be meager and unproductive. Therefore, it is essential to know the different soil types, and prepare them properly. Soil types, basic classification. In agronomy, different soil types are recognized according to their texture and composition. Each soil type represents advantages and disadvantages for cultivation. These are the main soil types. Number one, sandy soils. The texture is loose and granular. Advantages are a good drainage and easy to work. Disadvantages, very low water and nutrient retention. Ideal use. Crops that do not tolerate a waterlogging, for example, carrots, watermelon, certain potatoes varieties. Ebionites, just as a heart that doesn't retain a lesion soon and loses it, sandy soil doesn't retain nutrients, therefore fertilization with organic matter is necessary. Clay soils, that's number two. Texture, sticky and dense. Advantages, high water and nutrient retention capacity. Disadvantages: poor drainage, hardens when dry. Ideal use: fruit trees, moisture tolerant legumes. You are the potter's clay in the Lord's hand, O house of Israel, said Jeremiah 18:6. Clay soil, like mud, can be transformed by those who understand that with proper management it becomes fertile soil. Silt soils. That's number 3, silt soils. Texture, soft and silky. Advantages, very fertile, good nutrient retention. Disadvantages, can become compacted and eroded easily. Ideal use: leafy vegetables, short cycle vegetables. This soil, when protected and covered with mulch, an organic or inorganic protective layer, or cover crops, produces abundantly, as it is written, the field the Lord has blessed will yield 100-fold, said Genesis 26:12. And the final is mixed soils. The composition is a balanced mixture of sands, silt, and clay. Advantages: good drainage, natural fertility, and they are very easy to work. The disadvantages are few, but requires organic maintenance. Ideal use: all types of crops. It is the ideal soil. Just as a balanced heart is fertile ground for truth, clay soil or mixed soil is a blessing for the farmer. Soil preparation, a sacred task. For 6 years you shall prepare the field, sowing its seed and gathering its harvest. But in the 7th year you shall let it rest. Exodus 23:10-11. The Torah teaches us that the land is not a slave, is our partner. Preparing is not about exploiting it, but about understanding and serving it. Some fundamental practices are, for example, soil analysis. Before planting, the wise Ebionite analyzes their soil, whether professionally with agronomists or at home observing the color, texture, moisture, and the presence of earthworms. Knowing what you have is the first step. Aeration. Compacted soil is like a hardened heart. It doesn't receive water or zits. Using tools like a garden fork or a hoe without disturbing the layers too much improves aeration without harming microbial life. Organic matter. Whoever sows righteousness will surely reap a harvest, said Proverbs 11:18. Organic matter, composed humus or a well-watered manure, is the soil's righteousness. It enriches, gives life, and nourishes without harming it. Every urban farmer should have their own composting system. Soil pH. Every plant has an ideal range of acidity or alkalinity. Many urban soils tend to be alkaline due to the presence of cement. Adding sulfur, acidic compost, or peat moss can balance the pH. Leaving mulch. Instead of leaving the soil bare, cover it with straw, leaves, cardboard, or cover crops, for example, clover or oats. This retains moisture, provides nutrients, and protects the soil from the sun. The challenge of urban soils. He rises the poor from the dust and the needy from the ash heap, said Psalms 113:7. Many urban soils are contaminated or of poor quality. Even so, with faith and knowledge, they can be transformed. The use of raised beds, barrels, deep pots, and compost-enriched soil allows for cultivation even on rooftops and concrete patios. Every Ebionite family in the city should learn to regenerate the soil, even if it's just as in a pot, as part of their avodah, the service to Elion. Cultivating the land is cultivating humility and obedience. The earth as a testimony of faith. A farmer went out to sow his seed. Some fell on good soil and produced a crop. said the Master Jesus on Matthew 13, 3-8. There is no true spirituality disconnected from the earth. An Ebionite who does not understand the earth cannot fully understand the parables of the Messiah or the language of creation. Preparing the soil is preparing the heart. Healing the soil is healing communities. Today, more than ever, both is in the countryside and in the city, we must take up the example of Adam, of the prophet Isaiah, of the wise and righteous farmer described by Ben Sira. The earth awaits our hands, and Elion awaits us to sow not among thorns or rocks, but in good soil cultivated with faith in knowledge. Honor the farmer before famine forces you to, says Ben Sira. Shalom Aleichem. This is all with this Davar Mosar. We have here some comments on YouTube. Te deseo lo mejor. Muchísimas gracias. Gallardo dice hola. Hola Ivana, perdón, estaba leyendo el Davar Mosar y no podía contestar. Dice, ¿me saludas? Ok, claro que sí. Un saludo para tu familia. Ok, esos son todos los comentarios. Acá en Kuwait dice Alondra Hernández, te quiero mucho, muchas gracias. Perdón, se me pierden los comentarios. Johan Ramírez dice en inglés para que aquí somos latinos. Bueno, es que sí tenemos un en vivo en español, pero es los domingos. Hoy jueves es siempre en inglés. Y Liz Valdés dice que te vaya bien, muchísimas gracias. Ivana Gallardo dice gracias a ti por estar aquí con nosotros. Hoy el en vivo es en inglés, pero los domingos tenemos este mismo en vivo en español. Domingos 9 de la mañana, horario de México. Okay, let's continue with our service and let's go to our next prayer. It is our Father prayer in Aramaic. Avunda Vishmaya Yitkadash Shmach Tete Malchutach Nevet Tzvianach Kedi Vishmaya Afbara Jelu Disun Kanan Jomana Beshvak Lana Chovein Kedi Af Nachnan Shvakin Lechayavin Lana Veal Tael Lana Lesinayona El Me Patsenan Bisha Metul Dilach Zalut Malchuta Betishbochta Leolam Al Minamen. And now we are going to the second psalm of this Midrash service, and it is going to be Psalm number 27.
The stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?
Though an army rise against me, my heart shall not be afraid. To seek him in his holy
Before going to the next subject, we have here some comments. Jenny Boques, tal vez Bojorques, dice hola, hola Jenny, bienvenida. Hoy el en vivo es en inglés. Brian Mexicanos dice eres tan bueno, muchas gracias Brian, bienvenido al en vivo. Para todos aquellos que somos hispanos, el en vivo en español es los domingos a las 9 de la mañana, pero obviamente son bienvenidos al en vivo hoy también. Okay, let's go to the next subject. It is a shiur. The name is spiritual leadership. Today we gather to reflect on a topic that concerns not only our minds but also our identity, our duty, and our purpose: spiritual leadership. We will do so from an Ebionite perspective, deeply rooted in the Torah, in history, in the traditions of our ancestors, and in the living example of Rabbi Yehoshua, Master Jesus, the anointed of the Most High, as understood by the early communities who walked the path of humility, justice, and faithfulness. When we speak of spiritual leadership, we are not referring to titles, recognition, human structures, or hierarchical positions. We are not speaking of power, oppressive authority, or greatness based on control. From an Ebionite perspective, speaking of spiritual leadership is above all speaking of service, obedience, constancy, and a life where the Torah is not a book on a shelf or an abstract ideal, but a living path embodied in daily actions, decisions, and attitudes. This is a leadership that arises from below, from simplicity, from the hearts of the poor in spirit. The Evionim, the humble ones, those who recognize that all wisdom, all strength, and all true authority comes solely from the Holy One, blessed be his name. And when we say Evionite, we remember that this word Evionim does not simply mean poor in Hebrew, but rather those who recognize their dependence on the Eternal, the need for his guidance, and not for human self-sufficiency. To be a spiritual leader from this perspective means living with the awareness that we are not owners of the truth, but servants of divine truth, that we are not masters of anyone, but companions on the journey, that we do not lead by imposition, but by the example, that we do not guide from a distance, but with closeness and empathy, and that we do not seek admiration, but to be useful for the good of all. And when we say Evionite, we remember that this word Evionim in Hebrew doesn't simply mean poor. As we analyze biblical history, we realize that the Eternal One the Eternal One never chooses to guide those who seem stronger, more prepared, or more eloquent according to human standards. Sometimes he shows shepherds like Moses and David. Other times he calls farmers like Gideon. And on other occasions he raised up prophets who declared themselves illiterate, who trembled, or who doubted themselves. But why does the Eternal One do this? To show us that true spiritual leadership does not come from self-sufficiency, but from will. It does not come from ability, but from obedience. It does not come from pride, but from reverent fear to the divine will. If we examine the Torah, we see that the true leadership is founded on three pillars: justice, compassion, and faithfulness. Justice to discern what is right, compassion to avoid hardening of the heart, and faithfulness to remain steadfast even when what is right is difficult to do. We also see these three pillars in the prophets, and we see them lived out in a pure and luminous way in Rabbi Yehoshua, Master Jesus. According to ancient accounts from the Ebionite communities, he did not seek power, dominion, or recognition. He taught his disciples that the greatest should be like the servant, that those who exalt the ego ultimately fall, and that those who humble themselves before the Eternal are exalted. He taught that the Torah is a call to active love, forgiveness, applied justice, and a profound consistency between what we believe and what we do in our daily life. And if we consider the historical context, we observe that the communities of the first century were not organized as empires or rigid structures, but rather as extended families. The teachings were not disseminated through power, but through example, through shared life, through the daily commitment to living the Torah in the face of adversity. And when a leader emerged, it was not because he proclaimed himself as such, but because others recognized in him integrity, light, humility, wisdom, and love. Being a leader meant taking responsibility of serving everyone, caring for the weak, supporting the afflicted, correcting with love, teaching with patience, listening attentively, and acting justly. From this perspective, spiritual leadership involves not only knowing when to speak, but also knowing when to be silent. Not only knowing how to reach, but also knowing how to learn from others. Not only knowing how to guide, but also recognizing our own limitations, asking for forgiveness when we fail, and accepting advice when we are wrong. It means living with the awareness that we are instruments, not protagonists, that we are servants, not masters, that we are disciples, even when we guide others. Because the true spiritual leader never ceases to be a disciple. Today, observing our times, we see that the world confuses leadership with influence, followers, popularity, or external authority. But the Evenite path invites us to recover the essence. To lead means to touch hearts, not to impress minds. It means to guide from the purity of the soul, not from the force of the voice. It means to build community, not to control it. It means being an example, not a requirement. It means inspiring, not manipulating. It means embodying justice without losing tenderness. It means embodying discipline without losing compassion. Being a spiritual leader in the tradition of our ancestors means walking with the Torah in our hearts, not just on our lips. It means that every daily decision becomes an act of worship. It means that every word spoken reflects a reverent fear to the Almighty. It means that every human relationship is a space where the Eternal One tests us. Will we be able to love, understand, be patient, be merciful, correct without destroying, speak without hurting, and listening without judging? Spiritual leadership also demands courage. The courage to speak the truth when the environment prefers lies. The courage to be righteous when it is easier to be convenient. The courage to be faithful when must choose the comfort of lukewarmness. The courage to remain steadfast in the Torah even when the world offers easier, faster, or more popular paths. And this courage is not born of the hardness of ego, but of the meekness of a soul that surrenders to the Eternal with complete trust. Rabbi Yehoshua, Master Jesus, according to the Evenite interpretation of his life, is a perfect model of this kind of leadership. He did not lead from a throne, but from the dusty road. He did not lead from luxury, but from simplicity. He did not lead from a distance, but from intimacy with those who suffered. He did not lead with empty words, but with actions that spoke louder than any words. And he always pointed to the Father, never to himself. He always redirected the glory to the Eternal One. He always lived as a living example of obedience to the Torah, justice, compassion, righteousness, and humility. If we want to lead spiritually today, we must begin by looking inward. We must ask ourselves, am I consistent with what I teach? Does my life reflect what I preach? Is my character a place where others can find rest, or a place where they find judgment? Do my words build up or tear down? Does my presence bring peace or anxiety? Am I willing to serve even when no one is watching? Am I willing to love even when I don't receive love in return? Am I willing to forgive even when I have been deeply hurt? Am I willing to be the first to sacrifice myself for the well-being of the community? Evenite spiritual leadership also invites us to collective responsibility. It is not about one person carrying the entire burden, but about the whole community participating in the caring for one to another. The spiritual leader is not a lone superhero, but an elder brother who walks alongside others. Their role is not to concentrate power, but to redistribute light. Not to accumulate authority, but to share wisdom. Not to create dependency, but to foster maturity. Not to be necessary, but to be imitated in their service in love for the Evionites. For the eternal one. We must also remember that spiritual leadership does not mean perfection. The great biblical leaders had made mistakes, doubts, weaknesses, and dark moments. But what made them great was not the absence of flaws, but the ability to return to the eternal with humility, learn from their faults, and allow themselves to be molded, corrected, and strengthened. The spiritual leader is not afraid to acknowledge their fragility because their strength comes from the Most High and not from themselves. And here an essential element comes into play, listening. To lead spiritually, we must learn to listen not only to people, but to the inner voice that the Eternal whispers in our consciences. We must learn to listen to the Torah beyond the letter, to the spirit that sustains it. We must learn to listen to the needy, the sad, the afflicted, the confused, and those who are losing their faith. We must learn to listen even to those who don't speak, those who keep their pain for themselves, those who don't know how to express their suffering. Spiritual leadership also means protecting the vulnerable, protecting the unity of the community, protecting the sanctity of the Eternal's name, protecting the truth, protecting the Torah from interpretations that distorts its essence. And this protection must never become violence, but rather loving firmness, clarity, righteousness, without harshness, discipline without cruelty. The spiritual leader must also have patience. Patience to accompany those who progress slowly. Patience to explain repeatedly. Patience to guide those who stray. Patience to wait for the fruits that only time and the Almighty can produce. Patience to accept that we are not all at the same point on the path. Patience, even with oneself, is essential, for spiritual growth is not an instantaneously, but a continuous process, full of stumbles, advances, setbacks, and new opportunities. Another essential characteristic of Evenite spiritual leadership is simplicity. We don't need structures, great structures. We don't need ostentation. We don't need worldly glory. We need purity of heart. We need azanzia love. We need lived justice. We need profound humility. We need unwavering faithfulness. We need our lives to be a silent witness, a reflection of the eternal, a small lamp in a world that sometimes prefers darkness. And let me emphasize something else. Spiritual leadership is never imposed. It must be never imposed. It is only offered. It is only proposed. It is only given. No one can force others to follow them spiritually. A true leader is followed not because they proclaim themselves as a leader, but because others see in them what has not yet fully awakened within themselves: strength, balance, peace, wisdom, justice, compassion, hope, and faithfulness. Spiritual leadership is also a constant test of character, because when someone leads, they are more exposed. People observe more closely. And that is why spiritual leaders must take care of themselves more than anyone else. They must control their tongue as not to fall into gossip, hasty judgments, or words that wound more than they heal. They must control their thoughts because all leadership begins within. They must manage their time, dedicating space to prayer, study, and reflection. They must protect their heart so as not to fall into bitterness, pride, or hatred. This is very, very easy to fall into. They must nurture their relationship with the Eternal, because without this connection, there is no light, discernment, or true direction. But they must also remember that they are not alone. The Eternal sustains the spiritual leader. God guides, corrects, strengthens, inspires, and renews. Just as He guided our ancestors in the desert, inspired the prophets, strengthened the sages, and guided Rabbi Yehoshua, Master Jesus, He also guides today those who sincerely dedicate themselves to spiritual service. And as I continue this reflection, I want to invite you to consider yourself as part of this calling. Everyone, absolutely everyone, is called to a spiritual leadership at some level. Perhaps you don't lead hundreds, dozens, or even a small group, but you lead someone: a child, a friend, a sibling, a colleague, a seeker who observes you without your knowledge. Perhaps your leadership is silent, discreet, or intimate. Perhaps your leadership manifests itself when you comfort someone, when you listen patiently, when you help those in need, when you act justly even when no one is watching you. Perhaps your leadership is your example, your kindness, your constancy in prayer, your faithfulness to the Torah, your capacity to forgive. In the Evenite world, we are all responsible for one another. We are all spiritual leaders. We all contribute something. And perhaps the most powerful spiritual leadership is the kind that goes unnoticed, that flows naturally, that impacts without fanfare, that transforms effortlessly, that illuminates without seeking the spotlight. I want you to ask yourself honestly today, in what area can I grow as a spiritual leader? Where is the Eternal inviting me to mature? Is there any pride I need to let go of? Are there wounds I need to heal so I can lead with peace and not with pain? Are there habits I need to transform? Are there relationships I need to repair? Are there truths I need to face with courage? Are there talents I need to put at the service of others? Are there words I need to start speaking? Or are there words I need to start keeping silent? Because spiritual leadership is not a destination, but a process. It is not a title, but a path. And each day is an opportunity to advance a little further, to improve ourselves, to learn, to enrich ourselves, to be more useful in the hands of God. And we must also understand that spiritual leadership is not synonymous with emotional perfection. There will be days of weariness. There will be days of doubt. There will be days when it seems that no one hears you. There will be days when you feel that your efforts are fruitless. fruitless, sorry. And even in those moments, remember that the Eternal sees what no one else sees. He observes your heart. He knows your sacrifice. He knows your tears. He knows your intentions. And he promises to be near the humble, the sincere, the righteous, those who genuinely seek his name. When a spiritual leader stands firm, even in silence, even in solitude, even in moments of darkness, they impart a teaching more powerful than any speech. They teach trust, perseverance, and dependence on the Almighty. And let me add something else. The spiritual leader also knows how to rest. They know how to take a break. They know how to renew their strength. They know how to seek moments of intimacy with the Eternal. They know when their soul needs silence, when their heart needs comfort, when their minds needs clarity. We cannot lead spiritually from a state of constant exhaustion. We must learn to drink from the source before attempting to quench the thirst of others. Ebionite spiritual leadership also involves understanding history, understanding where we come from. The early communities were governed with simplicity, thought, the study of Torah, love for one's neighbors, communal living, respect for justice, rejection of corruption, and a profound devotion to the Eternal without seeking political power or privileges. These were communities where leadership was measured by virtue, not by influence, by obedience, not by authority, by humility, not by prestige. This history should inspire us today. And how can we begin to live this kind of leadership? With small actions, with small gestures, with a heart increasingly aligned with the will of God, with daily decisions that forge our character, with the determination of not giving up. Friends, today I want this teaching not only to be heard but embraced. May each of you in your own life desire to be a spiritual leader in your family, in your home, at work, at school, in your community, even within yourselves. Because the first leadership we must exercise is over our own soul, over our thoughts, our emotions, our impulses. Leading our inner selves is the first step to being able to lead outwardly. And the Almighty has given us the capacity to transform our minds, our hearts, and our behaviors. May the spiritual leadership we seek be one that comforts the afflicted, heals the wounded, strengthens the weak, enlightens the confused, welcomes the lonely, teaches those who seek, and restores the fallen. A leadership that reflects the light of God and not the shadow of the ego, our ego. A leadership that serves and does not demand. A leadership that inspires and does not dominate. A leadership that builds and does not destroy. Today, I invite you in the silence of your heart to say to God, here I am, use me, guide me, show me how can I be a channel of your light, your peace, your justice, and your love, just as Prophet Isaiah said. And if you pray these sincerely, he will guide you step by step. May we walk together with humility, justice, love, and faithfulness, following the example of our ancestors, the prophets, the righteous, and Rabbi Jehoshua, Master Jesus, who taught us to lead with purity of soul. May we be leaders who heal, leaders who inspire, leaders who serve, leaders who love. And may each day of our lives be an opportunity to glorify the Most High through our example. May God strengthen us, enlighten us, correct us, and make us spiritual leaders worthy of His name. Shalom ubracha. That's all about the subject we had here, and we have here some comments. Fernando ZZZ dice buenos días a todos. Buenos días, Fernando. Disculpa, no había contestado porque estaba hablando sobre el Shiur y hoy el en vivo es en inglés. Bienvenidos a todos. Eh, Acá alguien más dice, Dogan, ¿qué tipo de películas te gustan? Me encanta el cine, me encanta de diferentes tipos de películas. Victoria Rueda, deberían tener traductor. Victoria, te invito a que nos acompañes los domingos a las 9 de la mañana. Ese es el día que el servicio se hace en español. Los jueves siempre es en inglés. Faini Cascola dice lindo, muchas gracias. Briefy Ims, no entiendo aquí tu pregunta. Droneado en Madrid dice eres tan bueno, muchas gracias. Jorge Enrique Méndez, en hebreo el idioma que es hebreo el idioma que hablan los judíos en Israel. Sí, en Israel se habla el hebreo moderno, que es un intento de rescate del hebreo antiguo, el cual nadie puede decir cómo se pronuncia, porque totalmente se ha perdido la pronunciación del hebreo antiguo, además de que el hebreo moderno se escribe con los caracteres arameos, que son estos cuadraditos que vemos en las letras hebreas. El hebreo antiguo, el hebreo bíblico, era otro, era un alfabeto que se llama cirofenicio o paleohebreo, y es diferente. Y la pronunciación, la gramática, todo debió de haber sido bastante diferente. Ok, bueno, el en vivo hoy es en inglés, estamos ya casi terminando. Let's go to the final prayer, one of the final prayers of this service, the priest prayers. May God bless and keep you all. May God make his face shine upon us all and be gracious to us. May God lift up his countenance upon all mankind and grant us peace. Amen. Let's go now to the third psalm. This is going to be the final psalm of this service, and it is going to be psalm number 28.
Give unto the Lord, give unto the
have here some comments. Neyperi dice, genial, muchas gracias Neyperi. Bienvenida al en vivo. Hoy el en vivo es en inglés, ya estamos terminando. Alfredo Bataz Martínez aquí nos manda varios comentarios. Dice, ¿a qué Dios le rezas? ¿A Baal o a Jesucristo? Dionista. Creo que quisiste escribir sionista. Bueno, nosotros somos totalmente lo contrario al sionismo. Nosotros no apoyamos a ningún país. Para nosotros el sionismo es totalmente contrario a Dios. Nosotros no le rezamos a Baal. Baal era un dios cananeo, ni tampoco a Jesús, porque para nosotros Jesús es nuestro maestro, pero no es Dios. Nosotros adoramos a El Elyon, el Dios altísimo. Tus hermanos palestinos te adoran, Bato. Creo que eres del norte, ¿no? Como de Nuevo León. Ok, igual, nosotros no somos judíos ni israelíes, nosotros somos ebionitas, de modo que no tenemos nada que ver con lo que le están haciendo los palestinos, y nosotros todos los días oramos por nuestros hermanos palestinos, nuestros hermanos iraníes que están siendo víctimas de pues de estos ataques injustificados y tan sanguinarios que les están haciendo. Eres hombre de muy poca fe, tu Dios es el dinero. El dinero es lo que más me falta. Acá alguien más, Bilmantunkal dice, nos pone ahí unos emojis como de celebración de Sinaloa. Un saludo hasta Sinaloa y un abrazo a nuestros hermanos sinaloenses. Nunca he visitado Sinaloa, pero algún día lo voy a hacer. Y sí, nosotros no somos ni judíos ni israelíes, nosotros somos ebionitas. Somos, salimos del judaísmo. De hecho, antes nos reconocíamos como una comunidad judía, pero ya no. Ok, hoy el en vivo es en inglés, entonces vamos a pasar a los rezos finales. Okay, the next prayer is going to be Osher Shalom prayer. May the peace of heaven grant peace to us, the children of Israel, and to all mankind. Amen. Elion yevarech beyishmor etchem kulchem, yair Elion panav alechem bichunechem, yizay Elion alechem tzilo beyitem lachem shalom. Amen. Thank you very much for joining us in this religious service and about the Midrash. We remind you that from yesterday, 1st of April, to the 7th of April, we will celebrate the feast of the unleavened bread, or Hag HaMatzot. In this week, in the week previous, we had to purify our homes from all Hametz, leavened products, such as with flour products, red wine, beer, or yogurt. And last night we celebrated the Pesach Zeder, or the Passover supper. I warmly invite you to follow us on social media to stay informed about all our services. This service was streamed simultaneously on multiple platforms. We warmly invite you to watch, like, comment, and share our recorded videos. If you would like to support us with a donation, you can transfer it to the account listed in every social media, or contact us directly via message to learn about other options. I warmly invite you to join us every Thursday at 8 a.m. Mexican time zone for our services in honor of the Creator in English. I promise you that your week will take on a new perspective after attending our services. I would like to ask you a few questions. If you could change your life, would you? Do you want to please your Creator? Do you want to know what's God's plan for your life? Do you desire a more fulfilling and happier life? Do you desire the well-being of your family? Everything is within your reach when you draw closer to God. Therefore, I warmly invite you to join us for our worship service every Thursday at 8 a.m. Mexican time zone. Our congregation, our community of Ebionites consists of people from the diverse backgrounds, religions, and social classes. Actually, you don't have to abandon your faith or your religion to come to us every Thursday. Here, everyone is welcome. I would personally like to share with you what I have learned from years of study of the Bible, how it has transformed my life, and how it can transform yours too. No matter how great our challenges may be, God always welcomes us, and I want to help you to find your way back to Him. Remember, we are all God's creatures and we live in the same world. Therefore, we are not adversaries or enemies. We are all brothers and sisters, as Master Jesus said. May God bless and protect you all. Shalom, shalom, and Shavua Tov.